gonna lie. I've held up from watching this episode for a bit. It's Romania Black. We're on episode 8 of 86, Rule of 8, right? Because I know this series has been split into 2 cores, so this episode and episode 20 would technically follow the Rule of 8, which means the 8th episode in like a 12 episode set is usually really, really good. And I was really looking forward to it, but I'll be honest, I want to go ahead and be really clear. I haven't really read the comments entirely. The mods are still going through them from the last episode, but there's been some comments and stuff shared that I just want to clarify a couple of things about this series. One, I don't know if I'm reading the light novels or not. I've had a lot of people ask about them, and I don't know. Light novel reactions, that sounds incredibly daunting, and we're only on episode 8, so just the thought of tackling 14 light novels, like, makes my anxiety go up here, because I'm like, we're barely into the series, and I'm like, ugh, and I don't know. One, a light novel reaction like the ones I'm doing for Heaven Official's Blessing, those reactions have a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, a lot of people interacting with them, and they feel like they're justified because I love the story and I'm encountering it for the first time and the content is exciting and I feel like I get a lot of engagement with people, and for the most part people aren't spoilery, so that feels like it justifies the effort that goes into making them, because novel and manga reactions are a lot of work. They're a lot of editing, they take a lot of time to create, and I don't know what the engagement with the light novel series for this would be. And then I'm like, well, what if they make a season 2? Because I doubt this one season's going to cover 14 volumes worth of light novel material. So then I'm like, well, I kind of want to wait till season 2 comes out and not, because if I read the light novel, then what's the point of me watching season 2? Because I already know what happens, and it's just a lot to think about, so please don't ask me about the light novels right now because I don't have an answer. And also, this kind of ties into the second part, and that is, if y'all keep trying to tell me what happens in the light novels, there will be no reason for me to read them. I've had a lot of problems with this series that I didn't anticipate going in, because I think the series is a lot like Attack on Titan. And in Attack on Titan, everybody in the community was so great about not spoiling me. They didn't try to correct me if I was wrong. They didn't try to clarify. They didn't try to make connections to the manga. They just let me encounter the medium and would talk to me about stuff in the episode, but wouldn't try to fill in the gaps for me or explain things to me, and just let me organically interact with the series. And it was such a wonderful experience. And I thought that was going to happen with this series, but I'll be honest, y'all, it makes it hard for me to want to watch because so many people have either tried to clarify things, they've tried to correct, they've tried to fill in the gaps, and what is the point of me watching this series and being surprised and engaging with it if you guys answer the questions for me? So for example, Whoosh and Sweebian did not do this. They had a comment that is exactly what I'm talking about. They basically pointed out something that I didn't notice, and is not a spoiler, it's right there, but it's basically that Ray's Juggernaut has the red bandana, like I talked about in the discussion, but it has a sword on the back because it's the knight from when they were kids. And then Sheen's is the blue bandana, like we talked about in the discussion, but is a shovel. So it's like your Undertaker, you're digging, you're burying. That to me isn't a spoiler because it's just observing something. It's just pointing it out and it's there. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. That's awesome. It's in the moment in the episode. It's great. But then I received other comments. Like I said in the discussion, we saw Anju's back, and I said, well, it looks like something daughter. Don't know, maybe. I said, maybe we'll find out later on in the series. And I got several comments that were like, it says whore's daughter. And I'm like, I guess I don't have to wonder or speculate about that anymore. Guess you've answered my question. Cool. And then I had another comment that, I've been speculating, we saw Ray tell Lena that, the people from Geod. And I said, well, maybe Ray and Sheen are actually from Geod. And I went into this big theorizing about it. And then sure enough, I got somebody in the Discord was like, yeah, their parents are from Geod. And I know some people will be like, oh, well, that's just obvious things you should know. And I'm like, maybe, but I'm interacting with this story for the first time. If I don't pick up something during the episode, it might come to me later down the road in future episodes, and that will make the reactions better. It'll be more exciting. Now I'm just like, oh, when it comes out that they're from Geod, I'll be like, yeah, I know. Cool. And it just takes the reactions, my excitement, my feelings for the series, and it just dampens them. So I don't know. But I really just, the last couple episodes, I haven't looked forward to watching them as much. I've just been like, yeah, let's get to it. But like, I don't want it to feel like a chore, but it's starting to feel like a chore to watch this series because people just aren't letting me engage in it naturally. And if that means not commenting, I don't know. And I want people to comment because nothing is more boring to me than to watch a series and nobody comments about it. Nobody talks about it. It's just me talking to myself and that's it. And that's boring, but like there's so many other people in other series that can have like 7-page long comments that don't spoil, that don't give hints or clues and are just talking about the stuff and having a conversation. And I wish that was happening more in this series, and it's just not. So I don't know. I'm going to keep watching it for now. Hopefully the comments get better, and hopefully people, I don't know what to do, but it is, I still like this series a lot, and I want to give it my best shot, and I want to love it, but man, it's been hard. It's been really hard to engage with it, but luckily there's been a couple people that have like really appreciated the reactions and they like the analyses, and I'm very thankful that you all do. I hope you keep liking them. I'm going to try to do my best to talk about them, but when people start spoiling the surprises for me and filling in the gaps for me and not letting me do it myself, I just like my interest goes, and I'm like, should I watch something else and give this a rest until people kind of lay off and it gets exciting again? I don't know, but I want to watch this episode because we ended the last episode with this revelation about the squadron, about Spearhead. So I want to kind of see through what this episode gives us. But I'll be honest, this has been my least excited series to watch of the ones on my channel right now because I'm so fearful that as soon as I go to the comments, somebody's going to try to spoil me. And I'm like, ugh. And I want that to change. So help me make that change. Help me get excited again about this series. I am excited about it, but I want to be even more excited about it. So please help me. Sorry to ramble about that, but it's just been bugging me this last week. And oh man, I want to love Sheen and Lena, but y'all gotta help me here. So we're not gonna waste any more time. I'm done ranting. I won't rant anymore. But we're going to dive right in to this episode and see what happens. So in any case, I hope y'all are excited. I am excited, but I would love to be more excited. But we're going to watch this here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Maybe it's because I'm watching Monster, Berserk, Psychopaths, Heaven Official's Blessing, just finished Attack on Titan, and I'm doing this show and Jujutsu Kaisen all at the same time, but I'm tired of being sad. Oh, I feel like crying right now. Like, it's going to be really hard for me not to cry. I'm just like, this is the worst rule of 8 ever. Rule of 8, you're supposed to like get y'all like bonkers hyped up and excited for the final act of the cour. One, how are we making it to episode 12? How are we making it to episode 24? We're going to our deaths in the next episode. It's all technically gonna end next episode, so I guess what. I just want to cry. Ugh. It's so freaking sad. Ugh. I need a minute. I took a minute, thought I was good. Started this, I'm not good. I guess we're going to go through this episode because there is a lot of really good stuff in this episode in terms of the visual symbolism and things like that. But nearly everyone dies. 4 people instantly die in this episode off screen. We don't get to see it happen. It's just there. It just happens. And they use the flowers to kind of visualize that and the little markers and stuff. But then it's oh my God. I'm can Lena get a break? This series should be called Lena Doesn't Get a Break. It's that's what this series is called. And If I wanted realistic prejudice problems, I'd go watch the news. This is escapism, damn it! Janu Yowie cannot come soon enough, and the next show replacing Trigun is Trigun's like Trigun and Blue Lock are like the happy shows I'm watching on my channel right now, and Trigun's getting replaced by a romance. It's gonna be like the fluffiest, happiest shit ever to make up for all of this. Oh my god, I can't. Ugh. I like am wiping tears. I feel so bad for all of them. So let's just go through this episode and talk about what we find out, because there's parts I liked about this episode, and then parts I was like, give me a break, show. Come on. How heavy-handed can we get? So I do like, now we start out with the image of the guy with the funny thing is there's kind of the double meaning where it's one, the mannequin, the head is about to snap off, which shows that the entire squadron's about to be like have the guillotine come down and chop off their head, but it also ties to the Skull Knight and it being headless and all of that. It symbolically ties back to that. And now the phrase that says, welcome to the base closest to heaven, that makes sense because they go there to basically it's an execution ground. So all that makes sense, right? All that makes sense. And so it's August 27th when all this starts going down. And so okay, it feels like something else is going on, right? I feel like something's happening. There has to be a twist coming up because one, if they're all going to die in the next episode, well, then where do we go for the other, like, I don't know, 20 episodes or 18 episodes or whatever? What are we going to do if they all die next week? So that can't be it. And then there's little things going on behind and under the surface that I'm like, there's going to be a hat trick. Something is going to happen. Either they're going to go somewhere else and not to the base like we think they're going to go, or they have something up their sleeve, or they're planning on going somewhere else. Something's about to happen. I'm so curious, and I want to know, but I don't want y'all to tell me, but there has to be a hat trick. There has to be something else going on, right? There has to be. Because he says here, Sheen says, all right, if we have to, thanks. And that's all he says. And then Raiden looks over and says, was that Kino's group? And he says, yeah. So who the fudge is Kino? We don't know him. So there's Kino's group. And Sheen was talking to them. Somehow that's going down. He says they looked hard, but they can't find Chisei's juggernaut. So I guess he was like, that group was looking for, they were looking for Chisei's juggernaut to get him for there. Okay, so not found. Okay, so maybe it's something as simple as they were just looking for the wreckage and that's all they could find. There has to be something else going on, no, right? And they're not even a little piece. So yeah, and then Fido's looking after that artillery blast. Okay, and so that's when Raiden says, it's not your fault. And so, of course, that feels like very final words. It feels like, you're about to go into battle one last time, and Raiden's like, look, you've been doing all this for us. You've been leading us to the end. It's not your fault that we died. We got here by whatever means, but it wasn't your fault. And now we have, I like that we parody, or not parody, but we parallel Raiden saying it's not Sheen's fault. And that ties in direct contrast with Ray, who said that it was Sheen's fault. And we'll talk about that with the experiment and with the Parade device and all that. We'll get back on that. But yeah, that it was versus here. And the thing that sucks is that we get inside Ray's head at the end, where Ray admits to us, the audience, that he wasn't really thinking that. he was just saying those words out of anger and rage at his own incompetence and his own powerlessness. He wasn't really blaming Sheen, but we, the audience, know that, but Sheen doesn't. And then that freaky, creepy legion inside of his head, we'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, but Raiden's saying it's not your fault. Like, this isn't your fault. Your brother may have said that, but we know that's not entirely true. And then he's like, I thought they'd come after our base next, but they haven't. And then we see Anju with the cat. And then Karina, like, I like the realistic approach of, like, Anju, she's, like, trying to distract herself from the thought of dying by taking care of the cat and not thinking about it. It's kind of like how people process grief. Some people, when people die around them, they have to make themselves busy. They have to do something. And if they do something, then they don't think about the death, right? And that's kind of like, that seems to be Anju's method of coping. But then Karina has just the clutching pillow, like, shit, we're gonna die, this sucks. And that's kind of where she's at, and I don't blame her for that. Today's attack had a secondary goal of testing that new weapon. So, and then we see Coretto taking the shower. So, like, they were gonna test the new weapon out. Okay, and then we see this other guy here. We lost 4 to a secondary goal, huh? Yeah, and we see the others. If it's completed, we'll lose more than 4 and the Republic will fall. And so Sheen says, that doesn't matter to us, but I doubt the Major will agree. Yeah, so basically we have the idea that Legion is testing this new weapon. They're testing this new weapon out. And Sheen says that the Republic will fall if it's in use. We're going to talk about that with Lena. I just have issues with that part of the plot. And then Raiden's like, what? Oh, nothing. Yeah. He's like, the new one's still silent for now. So, yeah. And so, okay. He's like, I memorized its voice and I doubt the enemy commander will let them use it. Okay. So I guess they're talking about the new canon and that they're not letting them use it. And Sheen can't hear what Legion voice it is. And that's when he says, I found him. And Raiden's like, your brother. And he's like, and he found me too. And he plays with the scar around his neck and saying he's coming for me next. It's good luck for me, but bad luck for all of you. Because Sheen wants to face his brother. He wants to die facing his brother, like to atone for his sins. And then he says, what are you going to do? Are you going to hang yourself tonight? For a second, I thought he was telling them to hang themselves. But then it's like, no, that was the rhetorical question. He's like, what are you going to do? And he's like, well... Raiden's like, we're just going to go down with the ship. We'll follow you to the end, Shinigami. Yeah, I love that look that Sheen has on his face. Like, he just wants to face his brother and atone for him. I'm like, does he think he's going to kill Ray? Ray's like the leader of the squadron. Does he think he's going to kill him? Does he think he's going to wipe him out? Does he want to get killed by Ray and then shoot himself? Like, what? What are we going to do? I'm going to take a picture of that because that's a good shot of Sheen. So yeah, it's just like, I feel like there's something we don't know that's in the air that's coming down the pipe that we don't know what's going to happen. I feel like there's something there, right? And then now, oh my God, there's like a whole ton of people on the field. Like there's just a ton of people. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15 of them. And it's like, where did they all come from? That is the one thing about this series that's frustrating is it's just like you don't see these people die. It just happens and it's like done off screen. You're like, even like with any other series like Attack on Titan that I've watched, even the minor characters, you see them die on screen. And so their deaths have more impact. But what's fascinating is in some weird way, it kind of has more impact when you don't see them. And then you find out they died and you're like, oh crap, they're gone. Like when Haruto dies, and you're just like, he's just gone. There's just like a piece of his juggernaut. Where did he go? Why didn't you show us his death? And it's like, there's no point. It sucks. I hate it here. I'm so frustrated, right? But this episode might as well be called just Everything Sucks. Nothing is happy. Nothing is good. I hate it. So yeah, so we have all of these different books and everything that Lena gets, and she has one thing that says like the first squadron, like revision 13, revision 18, the first squadron spearhead. And she sits down, and when they say they're all going to be wiped out, and so we see here it says special reconnaissance orders. Yep, 2,143. So 5 years ago, it says from headquarters, 1st Division. And it says extended reconnaissance mission to the deepest part of the Legion held territory. Reconnaissance target furthest possible point within combat district 1. Mission duration unlimited. Retreat will be treated as desertion and result in immediate extermination. In the event of execution, perpetual synchronization target, registration, blah, 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 and all something as a soldier of the Republic will be revoked. And it says our unit is to ensure that it carries approximately 1 month's worth of military supplies. No support or other units will be allowed for this mission. Oh, okay. So the supplies at the end that they were talking about, they basically get 1 month's supply to go on the recon mission. So on paper, when they had all of the stuff together and they were gathering all the materials up and Fido and the other dogs are carrying all their supplies, on paper it looks like, oh, look, we've given you a month's supply. You're going on your reconnaissance mission. It's all set to go. We've got you equipped. Have fun. Like, it's just basically smoke and mirrors and hiding the fact that they just don't care. And so then we have Jay Carstall, the Brigadier General, that signed off on it. Okay, and then we see the target, the deepest part of Legion territory. No support, unlimited duration. Immediate execution in the event of a retreat. And then we see all these the point of this place is to make the soldiers fight until they die. And we see the revision 3. And we see it revision 7. We see revision 12. 13. We all die here. So basically, they've just been doing the same reconnaissance mission over and over and over again and just wiping them out. So we're going to talk about that with the uncle and everything. So she goes to Annette's house. And Annette is like just big. And Annette brings up some good points. I'm not going to totally diss on Annette because Annette has her own issues with her own guilt and her own prejudice. And Annette brings up some good points. She's like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go make a speech? You're going to go talk to a figurehead? You already know none of the figureheads care, and you know that nobody's going to listen to you on screen, so what good does it do? The thing that I get mad about is when Lena gets blamed for being worse than Annette. I'm like, Lena's at least caring, and she at least is trying to do something. I don't like that this series... I don't like that the characters... I don't like that Lena doesn't get to speak, right? That's probably what pisses me off the most. Because I get the idea that what the characters say is not a representation of how the author maybe feels about the situation, but it's just showing how the characters feel in that moment. But I hate that Annette kind of gets the last word, and I hate that Lena is silenced throughout this episode, and she doesn't get to speak. She's trying, but nothing gets through, and it's so frustrating. And Annette getting mad at her saying she needs to stop. Annette is doing the same thing that Ray was doing with Sheen. Annette was doing the same thing. She's projecting her own insecurities, her own guilt, and her own frustrations at her own powerlessness onto Lena, who is trying to do something. And I hate that it's framed where Lena doesn't get the last word. It sucks. And I know that's the point, but damn it, I have to watch this. It sucks. And so, okay. So we get some exposition, and it all starts to tie in this funky little coincidental world. Who knew? What a coinky dink that Annette's dad worked with Sheen and Ray's parents on the raid equipment. Now, the raid equipment seemed to come from the ability of Sheen and Ray and their mom, who, thanks to being confirmed, we can probably assume that the mom is from Jihad. And I'm going to assume, please don't confirm this, let's figure it out if the show tells us, that I'm going to guess the Jihad, the people from Jihad, have some kind of telepathic ability. And that's what's used to power the raid equipment. And that would also explain if the Legion is from Jihad and the Legion is using that technology that taps into that telepathic ability and then it just got out of hand, that would explain why that happens, because they are created from people that have that ability. So it is safe to assume that the Jihad, the telepathic ability in this case, it's safe to assume that maybe the Legion original brains were modeled after Jihad brains, and now they're using those from the 86, right? And some of them could be Jihad. The ones that get transmitted, like Ray's to Sheen, Sheen can hear Ray's. They can hear the voices because they're from that nationality. That would make sense. All right. And then she says, and it's really sad. It's just like, once the war started, it's just like, the thing that I kind of dislike about this episode a little bit is that they keep going on about, like, at this point, they're like, oh, well, the two boys, the one was way older and the younger one was my age, which is what we need to know that it was Sheen. But then, like, they keep talking about, like, the prejudice and, like, the friends and her getting made fun of because she was friends with them. And I was like, yes. But it's been, like, drilled into our head at this point that this prejudice has been going on. And I feel like the last 8 episodes, it's been drilled so hard that I'm like, I want a reprieve from it. And the show does not give us that reprieve. Instead, it just hits us harder with it. And it's like, we get it. And she says they got in a fight, and we see little Sheen try to play with her, and she yells at him and was scared. I was scared of myself for being capable of saying that. And I think that's a big moment for Annette, that she, you know, showing even she was capable of harboring this hatred and prejudice towards Sheen, as we know who he is. But we've already had this conversation with Theo and Kaya. We had this how many episodes ago, where yes, we understand people are capable of being monsters on both sides. We've had this discussed. It's like, let's move on. So, and then we get back to this. I want to get back here. My dad was thinking about taking them in despite the danger, and I said he wasn't my friend, and I didn't want him to come. I do think this part's interesting, where she's like, I gave him a way out, was that my dad wanted my support and I gave him a way out. So it's like one of those situations where you ask somebody, you're like, it's like if somebody asks, there's a party you don't want to go to, and you ask your friend if they want to go to the party. And if they say yes, you're like, all right, I'll go. But if they say no, you're like, okay, well then I don't have to go to the party because my friend's not going to the party. I have an excuse. I have a reason. That's kind of like the extreme version of that, where the dad used his daughters as an excuse or justification. And then it ended up gnawing at him alongside what all he did. And he ended up killing himself because of all of that. And they were sent to camps the next day. And we know now that all of this coincided with them getting the letter and her dad. Like, that's just all happening at one time, where the dad was going to take them in and she's like, no. And then they get sent off. And that was when Sheen was, you know, he got strangled by Ray. All I could do was tell myself that I couldn't do anything, that there was never a chance. The thing that sucks about this conversation for me is that she basically says, oh, well, there's nothing we can do. And I don't know. I'm a very optimistic, idealistic person that believes there's always something you can do. But this show, God, it just keeps promoting the idea of there's nothing we can do about prejudice or genocide, so just let it happen, I guess. I hate it. Because that's literally what it is. Like, and that's just like, well, there's nothing we can do, so just let genocide happen. So just let it happen and move on with your life. If it's not bothering you, you don't have to worry about it. And I kind of hate that mentality. And I can tell that Lena doesn't get a chance to speak in this whole scene. She's just literally disregarded. And it's so frustrating. Like, I feel for Lena so much. And then when she's like, you're as guilty as me, I'm like, well, does Lena have to leave and go to the battleground for y'all to not blame her for everything? Like, that's so frustrating. Because, like, she's trying. And then Annette's like, and then the thing of it is, like, for Annette to blame her and then make such statements to her, but then show her all this shit, it's like, really? She's like, the kids their mother had a strange power. And then we see the brother, and it looks like the girl. Yep, it's her. Okay, we see the picture there. There's Sheen, and there's Annette, and there's Ray, and they're all there together in the drawing. And then the picture, we finally see the full picture. It was cut in half in the frame of Annette and her dad, but we see the man with dark hair. Okay, and Sheen in the background there. All right, and we see them, and Sheen looks like his dad, right? Or is that, I'm assuming that's the dad in the portrait. They could tell what each other felt without speaking. My dad took an interest in that power. And that's where it began. And then she shows her all the equipment. They put these toy-like devices on and play a game, and it was human experimentation. A new kind of communication that could replace wireless. And it's the RAID device. And then she says, how many 86 do you think died to make it? And so she just goes off the deep end, and she's like, yeah, we did all these tests on these children to see if it would work on these 86. And when she says, results first, safety last, it's like, yeah, I've been reading a bunch of reports lately about different industries. And yeah, sadly, a lot of times it's results first, safety last. I'm like, yes, this is sadly apparent in many real case situations. My dad couldn't take it, and he committed suicide. And then we do see a close-up of the dad there on the one side. And she's like, wasn't it an accident? Do you think that my dad, of all people, would screw up the settings? He told me he'd abandon his friends, and cause so many deaths. I do like the small detail that the X's on the calendar get more erratic, as if like to show his mental process declining, right? And he's like, so I'm just as guilty for abandoning my friends, right? And I took over the research that my dad did, victims and all. And then she says, Undertaker, was it? So she says this. She says, Undertaker. She says, we got the request to investigate because of the dead handlers. Remember? Yeah. If I had them bring the processor that was the cause, I might have been able to save him if nobody else. But that's just hypocrisy. I'm glad that the transport refused. I don't know, though. I think that if they brought Sheen in after the handlers had died, they would have experimented on him and like picked his brain apart. So I don't know if her refusing to have them bring him in would have saved him in the long run. I don't know if that's possible, right? But, and I understand Annette's whole situation. Like, she took on her dad's work and took on all this pressure and all of these sins and all of this baggage. But I'm like, why you gotta throw it all on Lena? She's just trying to help. She's trying to change things because you all are too afraid to do it. And you're too caught up in your own powerlessness and your own guilt to try to change things. And Lena's trying to do it. And she's like, I can't save anybody. There's nothing we can do. But then she says, you're no different. You're even worse. You interfered and kept them alive, and now they're being ordered to die. I'm like, well, they were going to be ordered to die anyway. It's just so frustrating. Because it's like, why are you speaking? Everything you say pisses me off. And then she tells Lena to leave. She's like, if you just slacked off and let them die, and now they will thanks to you. And Lena's like, but they were going to die anyway. What you're saying makes no sense. Leave Lena alone. Hate it here. I hate it here. And then she says she hates her and makes her leave. It feels so heavy-handed, and it feels like it's not founded. I'm like, girl, Lena's just your friend. Why are you unloading everything on her and then telling her you hate her and to leave and never speak to her again? You're like, what? Why? And I know why, but it's stupid. And it sucks. And I'm like, it's so heavy. And I'm like, what? And I hate that Lena gets no words in edgewise. Like, I hate that for her. Like, she doesn't get a chance to defend herself verbally at all. She just has to take it all and then leave. And I'm like, what? And then she gets the order. And then, so we see the next day, we see the flowers. We see 4 different flowers for the ones that died. Then we see 2 different other flowers for 2 more that died. And then she sits down, and then on September 10th, she sees him and says the recon order has been given out. And we go back to that. Yep, the recon part, to the deepest part of the territory where they're leading him in. Now this part doesn't say completed. It says, I want to read the whole thing here. It says, any retreat will be treated as desertion and result in immediate execution. In the event of execution, perpetual synchronization, target registration, friendly unit registration, and all status as a soldier in the Republic will be revoked. Well, they're dead, so what does it matter? All mission-capable juggernauts currently assigned to Combat District 1, Defensive Squadron 1 are ordered to participate in this mission. Your unit is to ensure that it carries approximately 1 month of all necessary supplies. No support from HQ or other units will be allowed for this mission. And he signed it just like he did all the others for the last 5 years. So yeah. And she's like, this is insane! And he's like, well, they all need to die, and that's what's best for the country, according to its government and indirectly its people. I guess this part I hate too, because it's, again, and I'm sorry, my dogs are acting up. It's so heavy-handed. And I'm like, we've been through this whole series so far. At this point, I'm like, Lena, just let them burn. Like, just let the Legion come through and wipe these people out. If that's what this is. My dogs are like running around playing with each other. But I'm like, just let it go. Hey guys, what are you doing? No. So, it's just, and the thing about it is, the thing that I don't understand is why doesn't Lena tell them that the Legion is developing this new weapon to wipe them out? Because Sheen and Raiden kind of make a point at the beginning that this new weapon is going to destroy the Republic. So, Lena, why don't you bring this up to your uncle and say, hey, by the way, just want to let you know, you're sending all these 86 to die, and that's cool and all, but there's this new weapon they're developing that if all the 86 eventually die out, we're going to be destroyed. Should you know about that so that we can maybe take some preemptive measures to stop that from happening? No? Okay. I'm like, why don't you bring that up? I would be bringing up this giant artillery cannon that's destroying everything. She knew about it because she knew that it was happening. She was like, why? She talked about it in the last episode about it firing so many feet per millisecond. She knows it exists. Bring it up. And then this asshole uncle, she's like, if what we've done to the 86 gets out at the end of the war, it's like, well, no shit, Sherlock, you're going to be viewed as oppressors because you are. And then he brings up, well, the lady in this statue that we've been worshiping, she was actually killed because of oppression and greed. I'm like, I guess I've just heard this song and dance in other anime that I've watched, and I'm like, okay, well, what else? Because we've talked about this for a lot in this series so far, and they just keep beating you over the head with it, and it's like, yes, we get it, it sucks, but Lena is trying to do something, and they're not doing anything about it, and I know that's the point, and it's so frustrating. I'm like, well, what is she gonna have to do now? Is she just gonna have to leave and go to the battlefield and fight them herself? It's dumb. And I don't know why she doesn't bring up that the Legion have these new weaponry that could possibly destroy the Republic. I'd let them burn. I'd be like, fine, Uncle, bye. I'm going to go hide out on the other side of the wall. You guys handle this yourselves. And then he's like, when they're all... I think my least favorite line in this whole episode is he's like, when they're all dead, they will have ceased to exist. I'm like, well, that is the definition of itself, sir. Episode is so frustrating. This episode is very, very frustrating. And they're like, and thus we'll have done nothing wrong. Or we just don't care. And it's our job as the army to follow the people's wishes. And she's like, well, the 86 are part of the Republic as well. And he's like, how can we be? And then she's like, it's a country full of fools and villains who executed Saint Magnolia for the sake of their own wealth and greed. What can you expect of them? And I'm like, these people that are cowards and don't want to do anything and just hide and make excuses, and Lena's like the only one trying to do shit, you just throw her down. This episode upset me a lot. This episode upsets me very much. Humans were not ready to have freedom and equality. I'm like, oh, dear God, how heavy-handed can we be? Ugh. She's like, you're just saying that to justify your own despair. It's wrong to sit back and let this happen. And then he's like, and then he just ignores everything she says. And he's like, hopes and ideals, they won't persuade anybody. And then it's just like he's a walking idiom dex, where he's just like, hopes and blah, 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 they're the same side of the same coin. God, I hate it. And then she's like, I have these recon orders. And he's like, And then the thing that sucks even more is that she's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, yep, we all knew this was coming. We knew this was the day. She's like, you don't have to obey those ridiculous orders. And then he's like, well, everybody's going to die at some point, so we might as well just go now. And she's like, you're losing your future. And you don't hate us? How's that possible? And he's like, we're not going to die. We're following the path that we wanted to follow. We can finally be free. And I don't want you to disparage that. It's like, at this point, he's like, it's not that we've been ordered to die. We've chose to go on this route. We didn't kill ourselves. We chose to go this final route. And this is how it's going to end. Oh, I hate it. And she's like, well, don't fight anymore. And he's like, we have to fight. That's the only choice we have. And then she's like, you're going to try to kill Ray. To kill your brother. That's the goal. And he's like, well, why'd you have to realize it at the end? And she's like, when you talk about your brother, you laugh coldly. She's like, even if he's part of the Legion, you can't fight your brother. And he's like, my brother is a shepherd. So he's like, he's one of the leaders of all of them. And it's raining outside. I can't go anywhere without killing him. But I'm like, where does he go if he kills him? And then he's like, Major, there's no need for you to monitor us anymore. I don't want you to hear my brother's last words. So please don't contact us again. He's like, this is the last time you'll hear us. And, I can't hear the voices of the Legion that used to be beyond the eastern border. If anyone is left alive, help may come from there. When a shepherd dies, it throws the Legion into chaos for a while. We can buy you that much time. So, I hate this. And he's like, survive until then. Oh my God, like telling her to survive, because then it's like, ugh. I'm like, girl, why didn't you bring this up? I'm assuming that Sheen knows his brother's last words, or he hasn't heard them yet, but he thinks his brother's last words were, it's all your fault, right? We're going to go back to that scene, but it's actually that he wanted to protect him, right? We're going to go back to what it actually is versus what Sheen thinks that they are. And so then he says, survive until then. And she sees something. What does she see? Or is that just the end? And then they leave. And they turn it off. Ugh. It sucks. Like, I hate it. And so, yeah, all the spare parts and the fuel and the ammo. For a second, I thought they were just going to leave and go somewhere else. Like, they weren't going to go to the Legion reconnaissance mission. They were actually... in my head, I keep thinking that there's this twist that they're going to go somewhere else. That there's somewhere else they're all going to. Like, there's a secret base, and, like, the top 5 make it to this secret base or something like that. Like, the ones that survive up until the last reconnaissance mission, they end up going to this secret base, and that's how they survive, and they don't actually fight the Legion. And then there's like some underground territory we don't know about, and like all of the 86 that have made it to this point and have been on all the recon missions and haven't died out, like they're all like in this secret underground base, like plotting to overthrow the Republic. Like, I keep thinking there's gonna be a twist like that. Like, that would be awesome if there was just like, if they actually took their spare parts, their fuel, their ammo, and all their supplies left over. The 1 month of supplies was supposed to like make it seem like they were helping when they weren't. And if they were taking it to this special underground base, like, that would have been amazing. But I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I don't know. Because he says the provisions, fuel, and ammo and spare parts are all packed. My thing is, like, why would they care so much if they knew that they weren't going to live through this mission? I packed the extra spares for the legs for a certain idiot commander. For a certain idiot commander, I packed the extra spares for the legs. I guess they're talking about him. And he's like, thank you. And he's like, you can do simple repairs yourself, right? And he's like, yeah, I break them a lot. He's like, act ashamed, Brad. I guess he's the commander that they're talking about. He's like, I can't promise. Don't fight like you usually do. It's the last time, so just lie and agree. I guess maybe it doesn't mean that they're going to die. And so he's the one that's the mechanic that stays behind and sees all of them to the very end and then gets the new people in. Oh, I hate it. And he like gives him a little pat on the shoulder. And then they clean off the board like it's all ready for a new recruit, right? And everything's all wore down. And then Haruto. Yeah, killing all of them. He could have gone for a fun hike if he'd lasted a little longer. See, that makes me feel like there's just something, there's a twist, right? It'd be nice to have clear skies for the first day. Yeah, and we see like all of them on there with all their names. And then he calls them all over, the mechanic guy. He calls them all over and calls them, said, hey kids, it's the last time I realize I'm going to miss the old guy's lectures. So yeah, they get all, like all the flowers are dead since Kaya hasn't been taking care of them. Anju gives the cat, like, she snuggles the cat because she's not going to see it again. Oh, I hate it. And then what got me was like Karina just cleaning the windows. Like, you're going to go off to your death, but you clean the windows for the next group. Like, what? How? Like, that's just so sad. And she seems like she's just made peace. They made the little napkin versions of them to hang. And then my thing was, what did Theo paint? We didn't get to see what he painted and left behind. But he took the drawings with him. And then we see the person and, like, Raiden holding his pose there. And then Sheen leaves something behind for whoever gets the desk next. We don't see what it is, but he leaves something behind. Interesting. And then, yeah, and then they all go. They eat, they have their last meal, and it's just regular food. And then they remember all the people that are there, all the people that have died. And they're like, all 5 of us survived. Not bad. And then they all clean. They're like, the major never did call back. Like, she has to be planning something. Like, what's going on? And then the rain stopped, and it's a good omen. And so, yeah, I thought for a second they were getting brand new juggernauts, but no, the rain just cleaned them off. They're still pretty scrappy. And then Fido has all of the stuff and provisions supplied. And then they're like, oh, they left snacks. So I guess that's just the crew and the kids that were left over that aren't pilots or anything. They're just there taking care of the place. He treated us like kids until the end. So I guess they're just all going off to their death. I guess that's it. I guess that's the end. And then they've cleaned it all out. Like, it's all just been cleaned up. All the signs were taken down. Like, any trace of them existing there is gone. Just ready for the new group to go in. And they just all march away. I hate it so much. Yep. Nope, not having it. And then we have the recording. I wanted to protect you. As we see Ray reaching for the skies with his bloody hands. So Ray's words, I wanted to protect you. Being his last words, right? We're going to go back to this. That was how it was supposed to be. And then, yeah, like he's holding up Sheen. Yeah. Oh, he's so cute. And he has the skull knight. So then we say, he's like, are mom and dad not coming back? And we see the papers that his brother has. And he says, why? He's like, I can't hear mom's voice. So she's passed, right? So she's died. And he's like, I could barely keep myself together back then. So it says, okay. It says a requisition order. He's like, I can't hear my mom's voice. It says the following items are being requisitioned for use by the Republic Armed Forces. Remain on standby in your current location. Okay. And he's like, why did mom die? So they could hear her voice at the time. And that's when he gets mad and chokes him, saying it's your fault, but that's not true. He said, mom went to fight because of you. And it says LO2223077 has been destroyed. So I'm assuming that's the mom, right? They just gave her a damn number and that was it. He's like, that's not true. You killed her. He said, stop it. He's like, it's your fault, but that's not true. And he keeps blaming Sheen, but he says, it's not your fault. And that's when he says the stuff we got the flashback about. And then, yeah, Sheen starts to die because he's being choked. And he says, and that's when the one guy threw him. And that's when I'm assuming is that Lena's dad or Annette's dad? No, it's some other guy. It's some other guy in the moment. And he says, I couldn't handle my hatred and rage that I felt at my own powerlessness. And then we see Sheen it's like, and I took it out on you. Yeah, it looks like the mom has red hair there. Yeah, because that's him having the neck. Which I thought was like a really cool, now that we know that the para-raid stuff was kind of developed by in part because of his family. It feels like, the para-raid and the scar on the neck kind of have a correlation there. The person I was supposed to protect. His the voice actor for Ray just having this meltdown. Oh my God. Like his voice acting was so good in that scene. Oh, it was powerful. Like you felt that pain and despair. And he had the Skull Knight book in his lap. Oh my God. Oh. And he's like, I couldn't protect you. And then it goes back. He says, but. Oh, and that's when the Legion comes to swipe off his head. And he says, Sheen. And the thing about it is, he says, I couldn't protect you. I couldn't protect you. But, Sheen, I wanted to protect you. And the thing about it is, the thing that gets super freaking creepy is when it goes back to seeing him and the Legion robot. It's as if his mind is now like on its own circuit. It's not his soul, but his thoughts. It's like those thoughts. He's like, now we'll be together forever. You can be part of the Legion with us. What did it say? He's like, I'm coming for you. And what did it say on the screen there? Yeah, and it says Juggernauts 1 through 5. Oh my God. He's like, I'm coming for you without my fragile human body. It's like, this time your brother will protect you forever. It's creepy. It's like their last words become this like embodiment of what they were trying to do. No. And he's like, and then they can see them coming. Come see me, Sheen. Oh, I hate it. And I hate like it's just messed up. This like recreation of him. Gross. Next episode called Goodbye. Why? I hate it. I don't know, y'all. This series has 23, 24 episodes, but they're going to meet their death in the next one? I don't know what to think, but this episode was really hard to get through. Lena not getting like any agency in this and having it completely stripped away. I know it's for effect, and I know it's to make us feel like we're at the bottom of the barrel, but I'm like, we're only episode 8. We gotta get through this whole series. So, it better get somewhat happier, or I need to watch some happy shows on this channel, because this series, it is draining. This episode drained me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. For the love of God and all that is sacred, please do not try to confirm my theories. Please do not try to correct me or give me spoilers, hints, or clues. I would love to keep watching this series, and I want to like it. So please, It has been an uphill battle these last few episodes to want to keep watching, but I'm gonna keep trying because I want to know how it ends. So I'm sorry, I was pretty ranty and emotional this episode, but I hope you enjoyed the reaction and discussion nonetheless. Please leave a comment, a considerate comment down below. But yeah, if all goes well, I'll be back next week to see what fresh fun awaits us. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with episode 9 of 86. Bye.